Debuting on Netflix February 11th, 2022 is Bigbug by French film director Jean-Pierre Jeunet. Will you like this movie? Did I like it? Let me give you a brief review coming up next. Jean-Pierre Jeunet, you might know from Amélie from 2001. He did Alien Resurrection, but he really hasn't worked that much in the last 20 years, and I don't think I've seen any of his recent movies since Amélie in 2001. Here he is directing a domestic science fiction movie that's debuting on Netflix that is coming out of the coronavirus pandemic and the COVID lockdowns of 2020 to 2022. You must keep those in mind while you're watching this movie because, well, for those of you watching in the distant future, 10 years from now or more, this movie is, in part, about COVID lockdowns. Now, the movie is set in the year 2050 in France. Basically, the plot of the movie is 7 people get locked in a house along with a variety of domestic robots. There's a lot of advanced technology in the movie, but their AC gets shut off, so it gets really hot in the house. And this is because of some kind of, and they don't know what, some kind of shutdown from a central artificial intelligence unit run by a group of androids called the Yonics. Among this group of people, there are 2 ex-lovers or ex-married people. There's would-be lovers. There's a couple of young people who may get together. And there's a woman and her android sex robot. And so there's a lot of French love affair things going on in the air along with the science fiction tones in the movie. I really don't wish to tell you a lot about the plot, but I will tell you about its themes and ideas a little bit so you can get into the movie and maybe understand it better than you otherwise would. First of all, this movie is very goofy on the surface and will turn off a lot of people. It has a little bit of B-movie feel, definitely a lot of French comedy going on, absurd French comedy going on, but I found there's a layer underneath of satire. Definitely we're talking about coronavirus pandemic and COVID lockdowns and some kind of commentary on that, but also centralized technology and how it rules over our lives and whether we like that or not. Underneath that layer, I think, is some deep skepticism, and then underneath that is some joy and hope that bud out of the movie at various points in time, including, well, close to the ending. Now, if you watch this movie just on the surface level, in terms of its goofiness, I think a lot of people I know would be turned off by the absurdity and goofiness of the movie. But I watch it and I try to pull out the satire from it. So first of all, as I said, Gilliam directing the Jetsons, there's definitely a layer that humans have lost a little bit of control over their domestic space. They've given too much away to robots and to artificial intelligence, even though the future depicted in this movie is kind of bright, shiny, and happy, and I really would personally want the robot android in this movie who takes care of everything, cooking and cleaning and so on. The humans try to break out of the house in this movie repeatedly. They can't figure out how to do this. They have a lot of schemes and plans in order to thwart the AI systems, and it turns out, this is not a spoiler, that the robots, the domestic robots in their house, are preserving them and keeping them from a menacing problem on the outside with other technology. And so they're having to figure out, how do we get out of the house? But they don't know that the robots, the 4 conspiring robots, are actually helping them out. And these 4 robots, and in the twist on the Pinocchio story, really want to become human or talk about the differences between humans and robots and how they can become more human so they can relate to the human characters in the movie. Now, there's some classical French literary themes, philosophical themes in this movie. It just reminded me of so many things, including there's a library in the movie of books. Here in the movie, there's sort of vintage artifacts in the year 2050. Who reads books? But the books are really used, I think, pretty well in this movie, including the robots reading them, and then, hilarious to my mind, a robot quoting Pascal. Now, you may not notice this happening, but it happens several times where the robots are quoting classic French literature. Now, one theme coming up then is rationality versus irrationality. Human nature itself is irrational. I think the movie is on the side of what it itself calls humanism versus a centrally controlled, efficient rationalism that is represented by the Yonics robots. And there's a great human face put on the androids. It's once, a robot face, but it's menacing. Another classic French literary thing comes up here is abusive policing versus the variety and diversity of the wacky, quirky characters in the movie. Central control versus chaos, as it were. Order versus chaos. I found this movie kind of funny. I laughed out loud several times. I was waiting for something about the COVID lockdowns, and near the end of the movie, there's a joke that I find pretty hilarious about that. So just wait for it by the end. In truth, Netflix could classify this as goofy comedy, but it could be under the cerebral category, and that's actually how I watched the movie, which is why I liked it. And I think I might end up liking this more than a lot of people. I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. I probably will rewatch it. Maybe I'll even use it in a class because it has so many science fiction ideas that are fresh from the year 2022. Packs so much, and it has some knowledge of science fiction lore and tradition and literature. I kind of like this movie for that reason too. So all in all, I appreciated this. And let's see what you think. I'm really interested to see if you guys just absolutely hated this. You thought it was too goofy and ridiculous. It didn't make sense. All kinds of reasons to dislike Bigbug. But I kind of liked it. So what did you think? Please let us know in the comments. Subscribe to this channel. Have a great day.